What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex Night Shift podcast, where every Friday, me, Chris Raybon, and my co-host Sean Koerner speak to everyone out there clocking those late night DFS hours as we break down the primetime DFS slates. We got the Wild Card Weekend, so we're doing it a little different. We'll do the Saturday slate on this show, and we'll do the Monday Night Football game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Sean, what's going on?
What's up? I am super pumped for this slate. We're going to be able to watch this together with the rest of the action crew in New York this weekend. So can't wait.
Oh yeah, should be fun. Back in New York again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be a really cool slate because you have some like weird quarterback situations going on. But I mean, for DFS, I think that kind of it creates more uncertainty. So let's jump right into it. Speaking of which, we got the Saturday slate, and we got the Seahawks at the Niners. The Niners are favored by 10.5 to total. Actually, no, the Niners are favored by 9.5 as we.
Oh, it dropped. Yeah.
Yeah, it's around. I mean, it's around 9.5, 10, depending what book. But the total 42.5, and we could see some rain. Good chance of rain, actually. And then got Jags and Chargers. 47.5 is the total. The Jags are home underdogs by 1.5. So even the Saturday slate, I think, is pretty interesting. Let's start at quarterback. What stands out to you at the quarterback position?
Yeah, so obviously, Herbert's the top option. I think he'll be pretty chalky. Lawrence is obviously the best value. He's only 5,700. And, after he had that best stretch of his career from weeks like 8 through 14, I want to say. I mean, he's really slowed down the past 3 games. I think, this toe injury seems like it's a pretty nagging one. So that could be the culprit. I do think he bounces back here. And there's a ton of stacking options. So he's probably the best overall play. But like you said, I think just given the uncertainty with this San Francisco weather, like we could see a ton of rain. I think Brock Purdy could be sneaky in GPPs just because, he still has Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, who are really good after the catch. So he could still rack up some yards, giving them dump off passes. So I think even in the rain, he could have a pretty big game for a 2-game slate anyway. So I think Purdy could end up being the best value.
Yeah, I think definitely GPP value. Purdy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not cash games, certainly.
Cash games, I think it's Lawrence for me in cash games, just based on my projections. He pops. But yeah, certainly Purdy. And then Geno Smith is kind of just there. I mean, you don't really want to go against this Niner defense. He would probably be the lowest rostered. So, on a 4-game slate, that is worth something. But you're gonna need to stack him with McCaffrey, a bunch of Niners, because essentially what's probably gonna have to happen is he's gonna have to be in a massive comeback kind of game script to be the top quarterback on the slate. All right, let's jump to running back. What are you looking at there?
Well, I mean, Christian McCaffrey is worth every single penny at 8,500. I bet the Niners do lean on him heavily this week. It's the playoffs. So, they've been kind of limiting his usage the past couple games, but I see no reason they don't unleash him here. Plus, Seattle's defense ranks last in EPA per run play since week 10. So this is just a great matchup on the ground. Plus, Christian McCaffrey thrives against, zone coverage. So Seattle's a zone heavy team. It's a great spot for McCaffrey. Obviously, he's going to be very highly rostered. I think both backups in this game are sneaky. Elijah Mitchell is probably, more obvious. He's only 4,700. He eased back into action last week with 5 rush attempts for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's going to be the clear number 2 back now. Could see a ton of work in the second half if the Niners get up big. And I think DJ Dallas is kind of sneaky at 4,200. Obviously, Travis Homer's on the IR right now, so he's the clear backup to Kenneth Walker right now. But they've been using this Wildcat formation with DJ last game specifically, and he broke off a 27-yard run. I could see them just using that formation a little bit more in this game. It's going to be an uphill battle against the Niners, so they might try to do something creative. So considering he's taking those snaps, I think he's a sneaky option in GPPs. And, if it's going to be, really rain heavy kind of game, both teams are going to have to lean on the run. So that just leaves more potential volume for someone like Dallas. So on a 2-game slate, he's worth, just at least one flyer at least in GPPs here.
Yeah, I wonder if you think people are probably going to, I would think people are probably going to go like studs and scrubs at running back, right? Because you have McCaffrey and you have Eckler, and then you have Mitchell down bottom and you have Dallas, like you said. So I actually
Yeah.
like ETN and Kenneth Walker kind of right smack dab in the middle. Both of them are great values. And because of the way the slate kind of shakes out with these studs and these, guys that you could consider playing for value, I think they won't be like massively rostered on this slate. So I actually like both of those guys. Obviously ETN has the great matchup against the Chargers, who are one of the worst run defenses in the league. And then Walker, I mean, this guy just, they're gonna feed him. This is the playoffs. They're going against a tough defense. They have to kind of shorten the game, even though San Francisco's starting a third string quarterback, because San Francisco's still been so explosive. So I think Walker is a good candidate to get 20 plus touches, even in a trailing game script. So I like ETN and Walker. That I'm going to be doubling up on them a lot, actually, and fading like McCaffrey, Eckler, and those guys, and try to build lineups that way, because I think you get a little bit lower rostership that way than the other way around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a 2-game slate, so it's essentially like a showdown slate where you have to do something crazy. I think JaMychal Hasty is in that price range where his rostership is probably going to be, I don't know, below 5% on a 2-game slate. So at 4,600, he's also sneaky. I mentioned him on our projections pod where he's been eating into ETN's receiving usage quite a bit. So if you do build a lineup with the Jaguars trailing game script, I should say, he could rack up 3-4 catches here. Might only see a handful of rush attempts, but the Chargers defense is so bad against the run game. He could hit value. And at 4,600, he's sort of in no man's land. I mean, he's like the same price as Elijah Mitchell, who I think will be highly rostered. So Hasty is definitely a dart throw in GPPs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like the pivot off Mitchell to Hasty, especially on DraftKings when you're getting PPR value anyway, because Mitchell, if he doesn't score a touchdown, let's say he gets 10 to 12 carries but doesn't score a touchdown, probably getting 6 to 8 points. So all right, let's jump to wide receiver. Who do you like a wide receiver?
Well, I mean, first off, Debo does stick out at 5,700. He's just way too cheap at that price. This is the playoffs, so they're going to feed him the ball. Even if there is heavy rain, it shouldn't impact him too much, because they have ways to get the ball in his hands, whether that's design rush attempts, whether that's just a screen pass or just getting him a dump off. Like, they will get the ball in his hands. So he's way too cheap at 5,700. He also thrives against zone heavy teams like Seattle. Zay Jones, as always, is way too cheap. He's 4,300. Now, he's been in a 3-game slump, but that just kind of correlates with Trevor Lawrence being in a slump as well. So if Lawrence bounces back with a good game here, which I don't see why he shouldn't, Zay Jones will just be a massive value at 4,300. He went for 10 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown when these two teams met back in week 4 as well. But I think the sneaky play would be Marvin Jones at 3,400. He's sort of the forgotten man in the Jags offense. But he's been quietly heating up, at least in terms of underlying usage. He's seen a target on 22% of his routes run the past 4 games. And he could actually see an uptick in usage if Jamal Agnew is unable to play through his shoulder injury. So I think Marvin Jones, while he's typically a guy I just ignore in this offense, on a 2-game slate, I think he's certainly in play.
Yeah, he's giving you a ton of routes for that price.
Yep.
Down there. So yeah, don't mind him at all. I think, true dart throw, but Seattle has to have somebody line up at their number 3 wide receiver. And in the last couple of games, it's been Cade Johnson. He kind of took over that role last week. And he's been elevated twice in a row. Now he could be elevated again. If he is, I think he's interesting at min price, just because, you could see Seattle go down big and they may have to go away from that 2 tight end look, late in the game. They might have to go 3-4 wide, just, kind of comeback game script, 2-minute drill kind of thing. So if that's the case, you could get some cheap catches out of Cade Johnson, and he'd obviously be the guy the defense would ignore. So, but if he doesn't get called up, it'll probably be Spreadwell or Penny Hart or Derek Young, which I'm not quite as interested in, because I don't think we would know which of those guys would be the wide receiver 3. But if Johnson gets called up again, that probably means he's going to take that number 3 wide receiver role yet again.
Yeah, no, I like that call. Averaging around a 50% routes run rate the past 2 games. It'll be either Johnson or Treadwell, I would imagine. So just depending on who that is, definitely, obviously, we're not playing them in cash. It's a 2-game slate anyway. I don't know you'd be playing cash, but certainly worth it in GPPs. Both players are 3K. And I doubt people will be, investing in the either passing game too heavily because of the rain. So that's just another reason why he'll be pretty sneaky here.
Yeah, it's just you're literally praying for like the comeback. That's it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're not expecting anything else. But and then you also have Juwan Jennings down there.
Yeah.
I think he'll be kind of overlooked. He's pretty decent against zone coverage, 1.8 yards per route against zone, and he's gonna be in the game because they love his blocking. As I always say this, like even with Debo back, Jennings, you could still count on him about 50% of the routes. He's gonna be in the game, third downs, things like that. So don't overlook him on this 2-game slate either.
And just looking at the top, Keenan Allen 7K. I know we both love him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think his rostership will be like? Just based on you said people probably have the stars and scrub approach. Is he part of that, or will people be just targeting like Debo, Zay Jones, like the guys we mentioned? Do you think Keenan's rostership will be a little too low? Because I mean, he just has massive upside, especially on a site like DK.
I don't think it'll be too low, but he is 800 more than the second highest priced receiver. So, yeah. I mean, you could maybe see a little bit of a discount on that, but it's easy enough to get him in at 7K. So I don't foresee a ton of, but I mean, either way, I think he's a top receiver.
Yeah.
Honestly, like even like, my projection for Debo this week, even though I do like him, I think he's like my wide receiver 13 on the overall slate, so it's like, he's not really like, he's got some downside, and Metcalf too. Metcalf's my wide receiver 12. So some of those guys who, they look like, okay, these are sure thing guys. They have some downside, especially in this kind of, could be raining, whatnot. So I think Allen, he's kind of locked in as a top 5 guy. So I do think he's worth paying up for. All right, let's close it out with tight end. What do you like at the tight end position?
Well, another Jaguar that seems mispriced, but Evan Ingram, he's just way too cheap at 4,200. Typical Evan Ingram fashion. He just had that amazing 4-game stretch from weeks 13 to 16, and then he posted back-to-back duds. But that's what you get with him. He just has a wide range of outcomes. So I think on the 2-game slate, we certainly want to tap into his just massive upside on the 2-game slate. So he's obviously worth that 4,200, but I think by far the best cheap option on this slate is Colby Parkinson at min price. I mean, he's been splitting time with Noah Fant ever since Will Disley was placed on IR. He's posted back-to-back good games, 5 catches, 36 yards and a touchdown. Last week, 2 catches for 47 yards. And Fant was unable to practice due to his knee injury on Tuesday. So there's a chance Parkinson has a bigger role here. So despite the tough matchup against San Francisco, obviously, I do like Parkinson at this price point on 2-game slate. I don't know if enough people are aware of him right now, so his rostership might not be too bad. But either way, he's certainly worth every penny right now at 2,500.
San Francisco go win this game like 31-0, aren't they? Like, I'm just like, Jesus, like,
yeah, probably.
Guys are all banged up, and like, it's just
the
third time they're playing. It's just like, geez. I like Parkinson as well. I think an interesting guy that'll be forgotten about, or probably people will just be down on him, is Gerald Everett. He has been losing snaps to, I don't even know, Parhams and like, he's just not playing as much. Yeah, Stone Smart. He's not playing as many snaps as he was as he was earlier in the year. But he's only down about 5-10%, still running around about 55-60% of the time. And this Jaguar D, 32nd in DVOA against tight ends. I think I mentioned that last week, and sure enough, Josh Dobbs, like that, his one touchdown pass, Chigo Conquo, with just running down the sideline wide open, like 3 yards of separation. So, Gerald Everett, this is a playoff game. Maybe his routes tick back up. Maybe they were kind of, letting him get some rest there leading up to the playoffs. But either way, even if he's running a route, 60% of the time, I mean, that's not much worse than that's like in the Parkinson territory anyway. But I think, connected to Justin Herbert, especially, who's the highest upside quarterback on this slate. Like Everett still has 2 touchdown upside, especially against this defense. So I wouldn't sleep on Everett in this spot.
No, yeah, I love that call. Night. I wrote that up in my player prop guide. We don't have any props up, of course, for the Chargers pass catchers yet, but I was saying Everett has sneaky upside because he's been averaging 57% routes run rate over the past 5 games. He came back due to injury. And I think the Chargers have been limiting him. So, with the playoffs, I think they do like Donald Parham. So I think he does maintain, a 35% routes run share. But I see no reason why they would keep running Trey McKitty and Stone Smart as much as they have. So I would not be shocked if we see Everett jump up to like a 70% routes run rate, because it is the playoffs. So yeah, I think he does have a ton of upside in the slate.
Who's your favorite non-49er defense?
My favorite now. It's got to be. I mean, that's tough. It's got to be the Chargers, just because Lawrence has been a little shaky lately. So I'll go with them. Plus, they got Joey Bosa back, so they have Bosa and Mac, both healthy right now. The Jags offensive line has been pretty shaky since Cam Robinson went down. So yeah, I got to go with the Chargers here.
Yeah, I Jacksonville. I got him. So I got him tied in my projections.
That's close.
And I mean, like, it's defenses, so they're not. It's not like we're like scoring a lot of points here. But yeah, the fact that the Chargers aren't like way ahead of the Jaguars, despite, like you said, they do have Bosa. But the thing is, both of these quarterbacks don't really take that many sacks either way. So that's why it's tough with them. Definitely don't want Seattle. Although Seattle's only 0.2 behind them in my projection. So I mean, you could actually just go Seattle and pray Purdy, finally makes a mistake or two. Which
could happen in the rain.
Yeah.
So yeah, Seattle could be sneaky.
I mean, think about it. If remember Jimmy G, he would play really well, but sometimes he would just, get like the fumbles or throw a pick or two. Like, we could easily see Purdy do that. So I wouldn't actually mind playing Seattle because they are the cheapest. And yeah, I'm looking at it now. I have 5.1 points for Jacksonville, 5.1 for the Chargers, and 4.9 for Seattle. So it's essentially a dead even split. You might as well go with the Chiefs as well.
Yeah, Purdy, he's been really good. Not to take anything away, but he has had a couple interceptions that were dropped. One of them came against the Seahawks when Quandre Diggs dropped just an easy pass to him. So yeah, Purdy's due to have one of these mistakes backfire. But he's similar in Jimmy G, where one or two shots a game he's going to have a turnover worthy play. But yeah, I think just given the 2-game slate, Seattle does make sense as a dart throw.
Yeah, you could stack him with Walker or something like that too.
Yeah. Yep.